Have you ever trusted someone only to feel completely alone when it mattered most? Have you ever looked back at a friendship and quietly asked yourself, was any of it real? Sometimes the deepest wounds don't come from enemies. They come from the people we once laughed with, cried with, and believed would always be there. This video isn't just a list. It's what I learned, painfully, after trusting the wrong people for far too long. If you've ever felt ignored, used, or invisible, you're not too sensitive, you're not overreacting, and you are not alone. Today, I'll share 10 signs of fake friends, the ones I ignored for years until I couldn't anymore. Because before I could recognize those signs, I had to admit something even harder, that I was the one who kept holding on, even when the friendship stopped feeling safe, even when it started to hurt more than it helped. Let me tell you how it really began. There was a time I thought being loyal meant staying, no matter what. I believed that if someone had been in my life long enough, they earned a permanent place in it. Even if they hurt me, even if I felt invisible around them, even if the friendship felt more like a one-way street, I told myself things like, they're just busy. They don't mean it. This is what being a good friend is, being patient, being forgiving. So I gave chances, over and over again. I excused the coldness. I ignored the little comments that stung. I held space for them, but they never held space for me. I didn't realize it at first. It was slow, like erosion. I walked away from another conversation where I felt small, unheard, and somehow ashamed for even showing up. And I thought, why do I always feel worse after talking to them? That's when it hit me. This wasn't friendship. It was obligation. It was imbalance. It was emotional erosion disguised as loyalty. And once I saw it for what it was, I couldn't pretend anymore. After that realization, I started paying attention to the little things, to the patterns I used to ignore, and slowly, the truth came into focus. There were signs, clear ones. I just didn't want to see them. But now, I see them for what they are, and I want to share them with you, so you don't have to learn the hard way like I did. Let's start with the first one. They disappear when you need them most. Sign number 1, they disappear when you need them most. You'll know them by this. They're always around when things are light, fun, or convenient. But the moment life gets heavy, they vanish. When you're hurting, when you're anxious, when you just need someone to sit with you in silence, they suddenly become too busy. Or worse, they go completely quiet. I remember a time when I was going through something really difficult. I reached out, not to ask for advice, not to dump my problems, just to feel like I wasn't alone. But the response was silence. No reply. Not even a, hey, I'm here if you need anything. And yet, days later, they were tagging me in memes, acting like everything was fine. It hurt, not just because they weren't there, but because their absence felt intentional. It made me question my worth. It made me shrink. It taught me to keep my pain to myself. But here's the truth. Real friends don't disappear when life gets hard. They lean in. They check in. They don't need perfect words. They just show up. So if someone only wants the fun, filtered parts of your life, but disappears when things get real, that's not friendship. That's convenience dressed up as connection. But disappearing during your worst moments isn't the only kind of betrayal. Sometimes the damage shows up in how they react to your best moments too. Let's talk about that. Sign number 2, they compete, not celebrate. You might not notice it at first. It starts small. A weird silence when you share good news, a forced smile, or a sudden shift in energy when things are going well for you. They're not mean. They don't say anything directly, but somehow your joy makes them uncomfortable. When you finally land the job you worked so hard for, they change the subject. When your post about an achievement gets attention, they go quiet. And when something great happens in your life, they're not the first to congratulate you. They're the last, if at all. I used to brush it off. I told myself, maybe they're just having a hard day. Maybe they don't want to make it about them. But over time, it became a pattern. I started noticing how they'd light up when I was struggling, but dim down when I was shining. That kind of energy isn't friendship. That's quiet competition wrapped in fake support. Because real friends don't treat your success as their failure. They cheer for you, even as they're still waiting on their own win. They clap, not because everything in their life is perfect, but because they're proud of you. A true friend stands beside you to lift you up. A fake one stands behind you, counting your wins like they're losses for them. Sometimes it's not what they say to you, but what they say behind you that hurts the most. Sign number 3, they talk about you, not to you. Real friend speaks to you, not behind you. When something feels off, they ask. When they're unsure, they clarify. And when something's wrong, they bring it to you with honesty and care. But fake friends, they avoid the awkward conversations. They smile to your face and then share your story with everyone else but you. I've experienced this more than once. People who acted kind and supportive, but behind closed doors, they were talking about my struggles, my mistakes, my personal life, with people I barely even knew. And not to help, not to defend, but to judge, to gossip, to feel better by making me look worse. And when they're called out, they say things like, "I didn't want to upset you," or "I was just venting." But here's the truth. If your words aren't meant to heal, they're not venting, they're gossip. Real friends care enough to speak hard truths in private. They protect your dignity, even when you're not in the room. Because correction in private is care. Gossip is betrayal. So if someone always talks about your flaws to others, but never has the courage to talk to you directly, that's not being honest. That's a warning sign. It may look like concern, but it's really just gossip in disguise. And sometimes it goes even deeper. It's not just what they say, but how they act when they see you grow. Sign number 4, they imitate you, then undermine you. At first, it might feel flattering. They copy your style, your ideas, your energy. They mirror your words, your goals, even your dreams. But over time, it starts to feel off. Because while they imitate you in public, they quietly criticize you in private. They take what you create, but mock it behind your back. They use your voice and then try to silence it. I've seen people borrow my words, repeat my thoughts, then roll their eyes at me when I speak. That's not support. That's ego dressed up as friendship. True friends are inspired by you, not threatened by you. They learn from you without trying to erase you. And when you finally speak up, that's when something even more confusing happens. Sign number 5, they praise you in public but ignore you in private. They comment on your posts. They tag you, call you bestie, talk about how close you are online. But offline, they barely ask how you're doing. They don't reach out. They don't show up. It feels like you're just a character in their highlight reel, not a real person in their real life. That kind of friendship is surface level. Shiny on the outside, empty on the inside. Real connection doesn't need an audience. It needs honesty, effort, and presence. But beyond silence, some fake friends leave behind something heavier. Sign number 6, they drain you emotionally. You leave every conversation feeling tired, not challenged, not inspired, just exhausted. Because everything is always about them, their drama, their problems, their crisis of the week. But when it's your turn to talk, they're distracted, uninterested, or they flip the conversation back to themselves. That kind of imbalance becomes a burden. And over time, it takes a toll on your peace. Real friendship should leave you lighter, not heavier. It should feel like a safe space, not a performance. And sometimes, the way they drain you is even more subtle. Sign number 7, they make you feel like you're too much, too emotional, too honest, too intense, too sensitive. They act like your feelings are an inconvenience, like your depth is a flaw, like your honesty makes them uncomfortable. And so little by little, you start shrinking yourself to fit their comfort zone. You become quieter, softer, smaller. But here's the truth. You're not too much. You're just not for people who prefer shallow. And the more you give, the more you'll start to notice this next one. Sign number 8, they take but rarely give. They call when they need something. They show up when it benefits them. They borrow your time, your energy, your kindness. But when it's your turn to ask for support, they're suddenly unavailable. And if you ever bring it up, they'll make you feel guilty, like helping you is too much to ask. But friendship isn't a transaction. It's a mutual exchange of care. Real friends pour into you just as much as you pour into them. And if you pay close attention, you'll notice how often they show up, only when it's convenient. Sign number 9, they only show up for the good times. They're there for the parties, the wins, the photos. They love being part of the fun, but disappear when things get hard. You barely hear from them when you're grieving, struggling, or just feeling low. And in those quiet seasons, you realize something painful. They never really saw you. They only saw the spotlight. True friends stay for the storms, not just the sunshine. And finally, the most manipulative behavior of all. Sign number 10, they guilt you for setting boundaries. When you say no, they take it personally. When you speak up, they make you feel selfish. When you set limits, they call you distant, cold, or dramatic. But boundaries aren't rejection, they're protection. And anyone who makes you feel guilty for protecting your peace was never rooting for it to begin with. Real friends respect your no because they care about your well-being, not just their access to it. 4. Reflection, what I learned. I used to believe that cutting someone off was cruel. That if someone had shared memories with me, laughed with me, cried with me, then I owed them space in my life forever. But now I know, protecting your peace is not cruelty. It's wisdom, it's strength, it's self-respect. I've learned that real friendship isn't built on how long you've known someone. It's built on how they treat you, how they show up, and whether their presence brings peace or pressure. Because friendship, real friendship, requires 3 things: respect, presence, and integrity. Not just good memories, not just shared history, not just old photos and familiar habits. We can honor the past, but we must choose who belongs in our present. Don't keep someone in your life just because you once loved them. Keep them because they still love you, with consistency, care, and truth. 5. Healing and inspiration. Letting go with grace. Letting go isn't easy. Even when you know the friendship is hurting you, there's still a part of you that holds on to the memories, to the hopes, to the version of them you once believed in. But healing begins when you stop chasing what's already gone and start choosing yourself. You're not weak for walking away. You're not heartless for protecting your energy. You're not selfish for wanting peace. You're healing. You're growing. You're remembering who you are and what you deserve. You don't need 1,000 people in your life. You just need the right few who see you, support you, and walk with you in both silence and celebration. So choose yourself. Clean the space within you. Let go of what drains you, even if it once felt familiar. Because clearing out the fake makes room for the real. And the right people, they will feel light. They will feel steady. They will feel like home. If this message found you at the right time, if you felt seen, heard, or understood, know this: you're not alone. And your story is still being written with better boundaries, better energy, and better people. If this video spoke to your story, don't forget to like, share your experience in the comments, and subscribe for more healing content. Because healing is easier when we do it together. And when you're ready to go even deeper, watch this next video. Stop chasing love. Start remembering your worth. Let them go. It might be the message your heart needs next.